If you were to step into a highly advanced spacecraft right now, travel near the absolute speed of light for what felt like just a few short hours, and then return to Earth, you wouldn't be coming home to your current life. You would return to a completely unrecognizable planet, thousands of years in the future, where everyone you ever knew or loved has been turned to dust for centuries. Modern physicists call this terrifying concept time dilation, and we are completely conditioned to believe that Albert Einstein brilliantly discovered it in the early 20th century. But what if I told you that the exact mathematical and physical mechanics of multidimensional time travel were already fully documented in an ancient Sanskrit text thousands of years before Einstein was even born? We are constantly taught that modern science is discovering the deep mechanics of the universe for the very first time. We look at the ancient Puranas and casually dismiss them as poetic fairy tales or exaggerated mythology. A lot of people miss this, but if you look past the modern secular arrogance and actually read the literal, unedited translations of texts like the Srimad Bhagavatam, you are not reading primitive fiction. You are reading highly advanced, mind-bending astrophysics, beautifully disguised as divine history. Today, we are going to look at one of the most terrifying, awe-inspiring, and scientifically accurate accounts of multidimensional time travel ever recorded in human history. To truly understand the epic, terrifying scale of this event, we have to travel back millions of years to the Satya Yuga, the first, longest, and most spiritually pure of the four cosmic ages. During this era, there was a massively powerful and righteous king named Kakudmi. He ruled over an incredibly advanced, magnificent kingdom called Kusastali, which was located right where the holy submerged city of Dwarka exists today. King Kakudmi had a daughter named Revati. Now, Revati wasn't just an ordinary royal princess. She was exceptionally beautiful, highly intelligent, and possessed incredibly advanced spiritual and physical qualities that were common in the pure Satya Yuga. As she grew older, King Kakudmi faced a massive, seemingly impossible problem. He was so incredibly powerful, and his daughter was so exceptionally divine, that he looked across the entire earth and could not find a single human prince who was worthy of marrying her. Every single earthly king he evaluated fell completely short of her immense stature. Human logic and earthly scouting had entirely failed him. So, the king made a radical decision that completely shatters our modern understanding of dimensional travel. He decided that the only being qualified to choose his daughter's husband was the supreme creator of the material universe himself. Using his highly advanced, mystic yogic abilities, Kakudmi physically took his daughter, pierced the veil of our three-dimensional reality, and traveled directly to Brahmaloka, the highest celestial dimension and the personal abode of Lord Brahma. When Kakudmi and Revati finally arrived in the highest heaven, Lord Brahma was entirely occupied. He was deeply absorbed in listening to a grand, highly complex musical performance by the Gandharvas, the celestial musicians of the cosmos. Because Kakudmi was a righteous and highly respectful king who understood absolute dharma, he didn't interrupt the supreme creator. He and his daughter simply stood quietly to the side, waiting patiently for the musical performance to naturally finish. In their earthly minds, they were just waiting for a few minutes, maybe half an hour, at the absolute most. When the final beautiful notes of the celestial music faded into the atmosphere, King Kakudmi respectfully approached Lord Brahma, bowed his head, and presented his massive, carefully researched list of prospective earthly kings, asking the creator which one would be the most perfect match for Revati. I've noticed that modern people often think of God and the supreme deities as just serious, punishing figures who lack emotion. But the authentic scriptures describe these interactions with profound, beautiful humanity. Upon hearing the king's earnest request, Lord Brahma didn't give a stern, philosophical lecture. He actually burst out laughing. It wasn't a cruel or mocking laugh, but a loud, booming laugh of absolute cosmic pity and profound realization. Brahma looked at the deeply confused king and said, "O king, all the earthly princes you have listed in your heart are completely gone. They do not exist anymore. Not only are those specific princes dead, but their sons, their grandsons, and their entire magnificent dynasties have been completely wiped from the face of the earth. In fact, even their names are entirely forgotten by modern humanity. You have been listening to music here in Brahmaloka for what felt like just a few short moments. But while you were standing here, 27 entire Chaturyugas have passed on Earth. I want you to really stop and think about the terrifying, mind-bending physics of what Lord Brahma just revealed. A single Chaturyuga, which is one complete cycle of the 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dvapara and Kali, lasts for exactly 4,320,000 human years. Lord Brahma told Kakudmi that 27 of these massive epical cycles had just passed. That is over 116 million earthly years. While Kakudmi and Revati tapped their feet to a quick celestial song, massive continents on Earth had completely shifted. Giant oceans had swallowed entire civilizations. Their magnificent, unbeatable kingdom of Kusasthali was completely gone, crushed under the immense, unstoppable weight of time. Every single person they ever loved, every powerful soldier they commanded, every friend they ever spoke to, had been reduced to literal dust millions of years ago. In my opinion, this is the absolute most terrifying realization a human being can possibly face. Modern science calls this extreme time dilation, proving mathematically that time is not a fixed, absolute constant across the universe. It is completely relative to your gravitational field, your speed, and your dimensional plane. The ancient Vedic seers didn't need a massive particle accelerator in Switzerland to figure this out. They fully, completely understood that time moves at a drastically different, much slower speed, in the higher, more heavily concentrated energetic dimensions of the universe. But this story is not just a cool piece of ancient science fiction. It carries one of the absolute, deepest, most profound spiritual lessons in all of Sanatana Dharma. King Kakudmi was suddenly faced with the horrifying, undeniable realization that his entire material existence was an absolute illusion. All of his massive wealth, his grand political power, and his untouchable earthly kingdom were completely meaningless on a cosmic scale. Time had violently stripped away his entire human ego in the blink of an eye. Nobi. He was left with absolutely nothing but his daughter and his complete, absolute surrender to God. And this is exactly where the supreme beauty of the divine plan is finally revealed. Lord Brahma comforted the completely shocked, grieving king. He told Kakudmi that even though his ancient world was completely gone, this massive, physics-breaking time jump happened for a very specific, supreme divine reason. Brahma revealed that, down on earth, the current age was the very end of the Dvapara Yuga. And more importantly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu himself, had currently incarnated on the earth as Lord Krishna and his mighty older brother, Lord Balarama. Brahma smiled with supreme compassion and told Kakudmi, "Go back to earth right now. Bestow your beautiful daughter Revati to Lord Balarama. He is the only being in the entire material and spiritual universe who is truly worthy of her." When Kakudmi and Revati traveled back down the dimensional planes and finally stepped foot on earth, they were completely shocked by what they saw. Because millions of years had passed, and the planet had degraded from the pure Satya Yuga down to the heavy, spiritually declining Dvapara Yuga, the entire human race had fundamentally changed. The people were drastically smaller in physical stature, their lifespans were incredibly short, and they possessed far less spiritual and physical power than the ancient humans of Kakudmi's time. Revati literally towered over the new human race like an ancient, magnificent giant. When they finally located Lord Balarama, the scriptural texts describe a beautiful, profoundly divine interaction. Lord Balarama, understanding perfectly that Revati was from an entirely different ancient cosmic epoch, gently took his divine weapon, the plough, and softly tapped her, instantly adjusting her physical height to perfectly match the current era of humanity. They were married in a grand, divine ceremony, effortlessly fulfilling a cosmic destiny that took over 100 million years to perfectly align. A lot of people miss this. But the story of King Kakudmi is the ultimate proof that our ancient scriptures are completely unmatched in their depth. They flawlessly combine the highest, most terrifying levels of multidimensional physics with the absolute purest forms of spiritual devotion. It teaches us that time is an unstoppable, crushing force that will eventually erase every single empire, every bank account, and every human achievement. You cannot beat time. You cannot outsmart time. Time is the ultimate physical manifestation of God's immense power in this material universe. But the supreme lesson is that while time destroys absolutely everything material, it completely bows down to pure, unadulterated devotion. Kakudmi lost his entire earthly kingdom and his massive ego, but because he surrendered perfectly to the divine will, he gained the supreme Lord of the universe as his son-in-law. The next time someone tries to tell you that ancient Hindu texts are just primitive myths cooked up by uneducated people, I want you to remember King Kakudmi. Remember that thousands of years before Western science even had a name for the theory of relativity, our great sages were already documenting the exact mechanics of time dilation, entirely wrapped in the supreme, breathtaking glory of Lord Krishna and Balarama. If this deep dive into the multidimensional astrophysics of the Puranas completely shattered your perspective on time and ancient scripture, please hit that like button to help hack the algorithm and spread the real, authentic glories of Sanatana Dharma to the rest of the world. I read every single comment, and I really want to hear your thoughts. Does the concept of time moving completely differently in different realms terrify you, or does it make you feel a much deeper connection to the vastness of God's creation? Let me know your exact feelings down in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on all bell notifications right now, because we are completely dedicated to bringing you the absolute deepest, most authentic scriptural breakdowns on the internet. Completely unedited and fully grounded in the ancient texts. Stay faithful, stay devoted, and I will see you in the next one.